These are my top 5 PvP classes on Mists of Pandaria. No healers, no tanks, only DPS. What I take into consideration is their overall performance in PvP, meaning 1v1, duels, 2v2, 3v3 arena, rated and non-rated battlegrounds. I will also be talking about some of the class changes, comparing Mists of Pandaria to the previous expansion Cataclysm, for those of you that are transferring and continuing your World of Warcraft journey, coming from Cataclysm and moving on to Mists of Pandaria like I am. So I'll be taking into consideration how these classes performed on Cataclysm compared to now on MoP. At number 5, Beast Mastery Hunter. We're used to the fact that marksmanship hunters usually perform much better compared to beast mastery and survival. However, Mists of Pandaria is an exception to this. You can find a number of beast mastery hunters high on the 2v2 and 3v3 ladder in Mists of Pandaria. They have a lot of crowd control, and most of their damage you can deal even if you're not in line of sight of your target. That means you just send your pet and he does his job damaging the opponent. The rotation is super simple. You have a decent number of crowd control abilities. Number 4, Arms Warrior. On Cataclysm, they've been nerfed so much that they've become almost unplayable. On Mists of Pandaria, they're again back on top almost. Not as strong as some of the other classes, but definitely viable in 1v1 compared to Cataclysm, where you couldn't beat almost any class 1v1. On Mists of Pandaria, you certainly can do that. They have a little more mobility than they used to have, a lot better healing, and better defensive cooldowns as well, while still being able to deal insane amounts of damage. You can choose between specs focused on crowd control or maximizing your damage output. Arms Warriors overall, compared to where they were on Cataclysm, it's a night and day difference. Definitely a solid choice for 2v2 and 3v3. Number 3, Frost Mage. On Mist of Pandaria you will see Frost Mages all over the leaderboards. You will see them a lot in 2v2, especially played in a comp with a Holy Priest. They're super powerful in 3v3 as well, definitely a very solid choice for Arena. Super high burst and incredible crowd control, of course also playable with a Rogue. Not to mention that for Mage, it's not just Frost spec that performs really well, but also Fire. If you're a fan of the PvP movies from back in the day made by Hansol, you will definitely have fun playing your Fire Mage on Mist of Pandaria. Number 2, Rogue. And I'm not going to be too specific about the specs here because on Mist of Pandaria, all rogue specs are viable. You can literally play subtlety, assassination or combat, depending on what you like the best. Of course there are situations where one spec outperforms the other, but overall, if you're like to play rogue and can decide on what spec you like the most, Mist of Pandaria is definitely the right expansion for you to be able to experiment and get to the high rating in all of its 3 specs. Rogues have incredible crowd control, one of the best crowd control in the game. Now they can also provide invisibility for their entire team around them, and they're extremely mobile. Rogues now have a talent where they can literally spam sprint. That means in battlegrounds you can carry a flag and be almost untouchable. And number 1, the best class of Mist of Pandaria in my opinion, it's gotta be Warlock. Warlock finally, not just affliction, but both demonology and destruction are finally viable. After Cataclysm, where destruction and demonology had really rough time playing in PvP, not being viable in most situations, Warlock finally becomes playable in all of its 3 specs and being able to top the leaderboards, whether you're playing Affliction, Destruction, or Demonology. Warlocks have been one of the classes that's gone through the most rework since Cataclysm. All the 3 specs have new resources. For Affliction it's Soul Shards, for Destruction Burning Embers, and for Demonology it is Demonic Fury. Destruction's Chaos Bolts finally hit, and hit really hard. They have great self-healing and incredible crowd control. They also have great defensive abilities. Affliction, as always, is great at spreading damage over time effects, great for battlegrounds, and Unstable Affliction provides you with a dispel protection. And Demonology has got the best playstyle ever in the history of World of Warcraft. You are a half demon hunter because you're able to be in metamorphosis for so long. Warlocks have a number of fun abilities to use. Additionally, you can also sacrifice your pet and get one of its signature abilities, so that way you don't have to control a pet if you don't want to, but can still use one of its abilities. Overall, Warlocks have gone through a big rework, making them a lot more powerful than they've ever been. Definitely a solid choice, and if you're into Warlocks, Mist of Pandaria is the expansion where you want to play it. These have been my top 5 DPS PvP classes for Mist of Pandaria. Let me know if you agree what your top 5 would be, and what class are you gonna play on Stormforge's Mistblade.